Hello, this is Hugh. This is going to be part 2 about the Blade 120 S2. It's a crashed helicopter that I found on eBay, sold for parts. I expected the repairs would be pretty minor, and for the most part they were. So anyway, we'll get caught up on that. And first thing I talked about, okay, let me zoom in first before we get going here. Okay, first we'll talk about the obvious damage. This is what I knew about going in. The tail boom was broken. It is split. I like to call it splintered, but this one isn't too bad. It was only in 2 pieces. But anyway, being this wasn't broke that bad, I was able to maneuver the wire back in there and pinch it shut. Once I got it in, I was able to slide it back into the helicopter. Anyway, I got it kind of rigged up and I was actually able to fly it. But that was after I had to do something else. We'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, another thing I noticed about this tail boom, other than it being splintered, is that there's about 1 inch of it missing. So even if you could glue these cracks, it wouldn't really be worth it. So, anyhow, that was the main problem that I knew of. Anyway, was that tail boom. So we've got the new one in. This is the BLH 4102. That's BLH 4102, and that's the correct tail boom set for the Blade 120S or 120S2. Okay, now, anyway, like I said, I temporarily managed to put the broken tail boom back on, and I had to use a new rotor blade for the back because the after they come off a few times, that, or especially violently, this hole gets to be a little too big, and it'll just start flying off all the time. So once I temporarily got it back together using the damaged tail boom and a new rotor blade of mine that I had in stock, and the tail fin's fine, I clipped that back on. Anyhow, both motors do run. We found that out, so that's good. So when I got it all semi-flight worthy, say, I fired it up and it did a hard pitch to the left, I believe. So I adjusted the linkage. This is on the right side of the helicopter if it's facing forward. See, it's pitching to the, if it's pitching to the left, what I did is I unsnapped this. I popped this off the ball joint right here, and I screwed it down like 2 turns and reconnected it. Well, then I tried to take off again. It did the same thing. It literally rolled over to the left. So the first thing I did was took this rod here, this connector rod, and I turned it back to where it was, because I want to keep track of where it's at. And I took the rotor head assembly off, and this is the swash plate. It's not supposed to come off in 2 pieces, but this thing was separated, and that's the typical behavior you're going to get when you have a damaged swash plate. It's going to just, when you go to take off, it's just going to shoot off to whatever direction the swash plate broke in or whatever, or got stuck in. So anyhow, that's fine. What's kind of cool is, I mentioned on the first video that I replaced both swash plates in my 120S and my other 120S2, the one I bought new. And I broke 2 of them on the 120S, the standard swash plate. So I had put a micro heli CNC machine titanium swash plate on that one. So when I ordered my new 120S2, I ordered a micro heli titanium CNC swash plate at that time to put on that one. So it never really got used, and I remembered when I was doing this that I still had that swash plate. So what I did is I installed my swash plate on here. And this is going to get replaced too, by the way, but I just wanted to see if this thing would fly. So now it has another stock blade swash plate on it. So I managed to get it rigged up, and I took it outside, and amazingly the broken tail boom actually went in there pretty snug. So got it up in the air, and I mean, this thing is super smooth. It just you know, the motors are just like real quiet, real powerful. Yeah, I can tell that this thing must have been crashed immediately. I mean, this does that. You can tell how they get after they have some hours on them, you know. But it's not noisy, it's not grindy or anything like that. It doesn't sound like any gear noise in there or anything. So I'm real pleased with that. So what my parts bill came to so far was this tail boom kit, which I think, now I'm not going to quote the exact price, I'm thinking it's about $8 on Horizon Hobby, and it's the BLH 4102 as I said earlier. Now this was the tail fin that was on it, and it's fine. I checked the two little snap-on brackets for that go on the boom tube, and then there's a little peg that fits in a hole on the back of this back end of that near the motor that holds this fin in place so it doesn't move around. And like I said, I had to replace the rotor blade for the tail, and I believe these run about $4 to $5. I'm guessing there too. I'm sorry about that, and I don't have a part number for that right now. And this is the original tail motor, and it's fine. It works great. There's no problem there. So our total parts bill was, I'm going to guess, let's see, $8, $9, $11, $12. And I didn't have to buy a swash plate because I had the original one off my S2, the new one. So, oh, and another thing that was missing, I'm sorry, I forgot about this altogether. This little piece here is the motor guard for the rear prop. So this piece goes on. It's kind of got a fatter end and a skinnier end. So when you slide it on the shaft for the tail motor, you want the wider part towards the motor, which makes sense because it's supposed to be protecting it. So, and what this thing actually does, I mean, does it really do anything? I don't know. Because every time, if you have a good crash and you lose your tail blade pops off, chances are this is going to pop off too. Now I have flown many times without this thing on or with it on, and I honestly can't tell the difference. I don't know how important it is. I'm thinking maybe it helps keep the rotor in a proper position, not out too far or in too close or whatever. Maybe it does protect some junk from getting in the motor. I don't really know. I have my doubts, so we'll just leave it at that. So so basically what I need to do today is just install this new tail boom kit. Open this up here. Okay, so here's our new tail boom kit. It comes with the wires and the connector obviously at both ends. And the back connector, if you look really closely, it'll have a little red dot on it, and that's the positive side. And the motor, which is the other, what this is going to connect to, if you look at the connector here real close, you probably can't see it there, but trust me, there's a red dot on one side of this. So you want to line up those two red sides so you make sure you get positive, negative, you know. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to slide this motor in here. I'm going to see if I'm zoomed in enough. Let me check first. Yeah, that's as good as it's going to get. So anyhow, what I like to do anyway, look for the position of the connector on the boom kit. And it's coming out right here, and it's right here. So I'm going to try to, I want this wire on the motor to come out in line with where I know that this, so these connectors will be in the same area. Make it a lot easier to okay. Now I'm sliding this in, but first I've got the connector coming through this gap here, which is in line with where this connector is for the wiring to the helicopter. So let's ease that out, slide that in there. Make sure that we wire it. And that's as simple as that. that motor is now in place. So now this is my magnifier. I'm not, because of my eyesight, I have to use this. So what I want to do now is I want to take this wire here, the one that comes from the heli, and connect it to the one on the motor here. Make sure we get the little red dots lined up. There we go. Okay, now we got the red dot to the red dot. We're connected all nice and pretty. Now I'm going to pull this extra wire back inside here. Alrighty. Just to where that, you can see there's a little shrink wrap on that. And there's a little sticky stuff on the back from the last helicopter was on, so I can just pretty much just push that into place here. And there we go. Now, just for the sake of making it easier to orientate it when we put it on the helicopter, we're going to go ahead and get this in place first. Now, there's a little pocket on the side of this plastic piece that connects to this end of the boom, and then these two little brackets wrap around. They kind of clip onto this tube that forms the tail boom. Now I want that little, alright, let's get her lined up close first. I want that little peg to go in that little pocket, because that's what's going to keep this thing in position properly. So it's important that you get that, because without that in place, it's not going to want to stay on there. There we go. Okay, so now our fin is, like say, you got the two little clips on the tube. We've lined up the peg with the pocket that's in this thing, and this thing is just locked in there really nice now. So now the next step would be the tail motor protector.